How many Tremor models does Ford offers? Not one, not two, not three. They offer 5, starting with the Ford Explorer, the Ford Maverick Tremor, the Ford F-150 Tremor, the Ford Super Duty Tremor, and this, the Ford Expedition Tremor, which completes the entire family of 5 off-road focus and capable vehicles for you to take your vehicle off the beaten path, go off-road. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I do DIY and car reviews like this. And in today's video, I am going to talk about the 2026 Ford Expedition Tremor. This is a very heavily off-road focused version of the Expedition. I'm going to talk about the specs, the features, the off-road capabilities, and then go for a final drive. And before I continue, I want to give a big thank you to Ford for allowing me to have this vehicle in my home test area for me to live with, review, to give you guys a comprehensive, honest opinion. Thank you very much, Ford. Thank you all for watching, for liking, and sharing my videos. Stay tuned, that is coming up next. All right, let's talk 2026 Ford Expedition Tremor. This model sits between the Platinum and King Ranch. So this is not the top trim version, the King Ranch is. So this is the off-road focus version. As you guys can see, just like its siblings, it has a lot of code orange bits. You have the orange surround by the fog lights. You have the 2 orange tow hooks. Of course, this vehicle has daytime running lights, as you guys can see, but right now I have the turn signals blinking turned on right now. You do have the low beam or LED, the high beams LED, and this vehicle also has off-road lights. That's right, they're right there discreetly hidden away from everything else. Ford gives you a little 2 covers. I removed them for the video so you guys can see them. You don't really see them when they're covered. And let's talk about this thing. It's massive, it is huge. So let's talk about the powertrain first. It's running with a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6 that's making 440 horsepower and 510 pounds-feet of torque, made it to a 10-speed automatic. Of course, this has a full-time four-wheel drive system, which we'll go over in the interior section. And the ground clearance is 10.6 inches off the ground. It is sitting on general grabber off-road tires or on 18-inch wheels. And you guys can see this thing is absolutely massive. It is a very large vehicle because it is the largest vehicle Ford makes. You do have unique Tremor accent, so of course a Tremor badge right there. You do have the Tremor orange uniquely placed where the tire stem is. It does have skid plates underneath because, again, this vehicle is designed for off-road duty. Integrated, of course, LED turn signals. My tester being the Tremor does have the 360 camera, so there's a camera underneath each mirror and one right here underneath the black Ford logo, because this has the Tremor, so everything blacked out. And it's a beast. All I gotta say, this thing is a beast for something this large. It does move quite very good for its size. Also, one thing that Ford does, all their vehicles, mostly pickup trucks and SUVs, do have something called zone lighting. What that is it's a collection of lights that turn on when you are off-roading or camping or whatever the case may be. So each mirror has a light that turns on underneath, so which is right over here, that turns on either when you open the door at night or when you activate it yourself, and then it turns on the fog lights to create a full 360 zone. And this vehicle, which is, I think is super cool, even has zone lighting up there. You guys can see that turns on all the way on the side, so super cool. And moving back to the taillights and rear end, as you can see, everything back here is, of course, is LED. The turn signals sadly are red, not orange or amber, but you have the Expedition signage right there, huge. The reverse lights are LED as well. And the tailgate, let me just, now that we're back here, let's just open it. It is a split level design. Of course, this vehicle is a third row seating because it is a very large family vehicle. So we'll go over, I'll insert the specs, but behind, and you can of course open, so it has a split gate. This is new for 2026. Behind the third row seats, you got about 22 cubic inches of space. And of course, if you fold them down with this button right here, that extends to a massive space, which most people will probably use it like this and will not use that third row seat. So super large cabinets area. You do have a 400 watt power outlet right here in the back. This vehicle does have the Bang & Olufsen sound system, and you guys can see the panoramic sunroof there, which we'll go over in a second. These seats are also power. You do have this button that turns on these lights, which are, you can actually pivot them, which are super useful when you're out and about in the cargo area. And this can be used as a seat. That's right, you can open this up like so, which I'll go over in a second what that does. And you just jump on, and then you can just sit here and have a tailgate party, chillaxing. And then this little portion detaches. Let me see if I can do this. Let me put you guys right here. See if I can do this in a way where the phone doesn't fall off. Keep in mind, I'm a one-man show. Let's see. Let's see if I could do this one-handed. So this detaches like so from here. And then you fold this guy down, back down again, like so. Then after that, you see this guy's right here. These hooks come down like so. You can put them down like this. And then my guy here folds in like that, like so. And then it has its little legs, which behaves like a shelf. If I can figure this out with one hand, again, my apologies, I'm doing this one hand, and look at that. This serves as a little upper tray. And then if, let's say, if you have the seat up in its upright position, you do have this two-tier cargo system. I guess you can use it to organize the seats, you know, and you can put stuff underneath, which is super cool and super useful that Ford thought about that. And like the saying says, but wait, there's more. So once you are done with this, you fold the legs up, and then you unhook this guy from the back. Again, my apologies, I'm doing this with one hand, a little harder to do. So, and you put this back in here like so. Then this guy becomes the backrest for your tailgate. So I'm gonna jump back in here, and I can just chill here in this tailgate, and this is my back, and I'm heavily supported, and you could do your tailgating activities and have some fun. All right, let's step inside the interior. Let's step inside the Ford Expedition Tremor, so we could talk about the tech, the features, and then the second row, then the third row, and then we'll go for a quick and final drive and share my thoughts. Stay tuned for that. And if you're wondering, when you close the hatch, they both close together, as you guys can see. They close together, and voila, all done. All right, let's go over the interior, the tech, the features, and then we go for a quick and final drive and my thoughts. Stay tuned for that. Okay, let's step inside the 2026 Ford Expedition. Tremor. So when you approach it, you put your hand on the door handle, both mirrors on lock, and there is that one of the lightings I mentioned, which is dual duty zone lighting and flood lamps. This has metal side steps, Ford imprinted on the side. And this is something blast from the past. There's the key code there. Ford's been doing this for as long as I've been alive, where you can program a code and lock the car completely and then come back and open the door just pressing these numbers here. Super cool, super unique feature. I'm surprised they still offer this in 2026. I'm sure this is an option, but anyway, super cool to see that in a modern vehicle. And let's talk about the interior, the materials, and they're very nice. This vehicle being, of course, an off-road focused vehicle, the materials are still very good. This is soft padded material up here. I'm gonna probably say it's leather, or if it's not leather, it's synthetic. There's that more of that code orange dual stitching. You do have this little material that kind of looks like wood, but I don't think it is wood. There's a little bit of the ambient lighting you guys see blinking there. Power, of course, everything. Power folding mirrors, auto up and down the windows. And then down here, as expected, because this is a very high traffic touch zone, it's going to be hard plastic. This vehicle does have the 18 speaker Bang & Olufsen sound system, and it sounds excellent. The seats are also very comfortable, very soft padded. This has, as per Ford's window sticker, water repellent material, so you do have the Tremor there in core orange. Giant headrest. Of course, this of course it is power, and with two dual lumbar support. It does have memory seating, which we'll go over in a second how to program it. This vehicle is a little trippy because it has a couple of things that are interesting that it took me a little bit to figure out. And here is your mode selector, and 2-wheel drive low, 2 high, 4 high, 4 automatic, 4 low. This opens the hatch completely, or just there's your top portion, or just completely. And then of course the automatic parking brake is right here, and of course your hood release is right here, over here. Thankfully Ford gave me this vehicle with all weather mats. As you guys can see, it's been raining and muddy. It's been a hot mess in my area. Step-in height is very high because this is a body-on-frame behemoth. Of course, shared its platform with the F-150. And in front of us, we have a ginormous 24-inch display. As you guys can see, it says Expedition. On camera, it's flickering, but it does not flicker in real life. And then this guy is a 13.2-inch display, which relatively looks small compared to that guy, but this is your main screen. You have your gear selectors right here. Volume knob, turn up and down. Controls for, let me just actually turn on the car. And you guys can see what that giant display looks like. And this is the screen that can control that screen. Unfortunately, climate controls are embedded on the screen. So if you press this guy here, you can activate the climate control for the front. You can also, of course, turn it on for the rear. And interestingly enough, they don't sync with the front, which I found that very interesting, how it doesn't sync with the front, especially the temperatures. It's completely independent back there, but nonetheless, you could, of course, set it up over here. It does have heated and ventilated seats, but they're turned on by activated screen here. You can set it to auto mode, which will turn it on and give you the heat or cooling based on whatever temperature you set it to, which is super unique and a very useful feature. And also has a heated steering wheel. And let's talk about the steering wheel for a second before we continue. As you guys can see, it's not exactly round. It's actually a squircle. It's a little oval to give you room to see that screen. And it took me a bit to figure out how to move it. And as you guys can see, you press this button right here, and then you press this and it moves up and down. And then you press this guy and it comes out. and this guy to go all the way in. A little bit of getting used to. I had to put it all the way down so I can see out. I mean, of course, the camera, let me just put it back to, and you can, of course, adjust it to each profile. And this screen is basically is part of Ford's digital experience, as they say. So you can do a lot with the screen. So, for example, right now you see the fuel economy, which is not great, but that's besides the point. And to adjust that, you just press right here, and then you can have widgets. So if you press, for example, none, it shows you nothing. And then you can also click here to show, not to show the map screen, and it completely goes dark. And you could do theme selection, so you could do blue, copper, or green. And of course, it will adjust the lighting, the theme on the screens, everything else around the theme color that you select, which is pretty cool. It does have ambient lighting. You can also select. I'm a sucker for blue, so I'll leave it on blue. But anyway, back to that screen. So you could do fuel economy, and if you press it once and hit reset, that's how you reset it. You could do auxiliary gauges, so you have your oil temperature gauge, transmission gauge, and you have your boost controller gauge all the way at the bottom, which is pretty cool right there. You have media. Right now my media is off, but it will show you your AM, FM, satellite radio, whatever you're listening to right there. Off-road status. So this is the off-road screen. So if you turn on, it tells you yaw. See, when I'm turning the wheel, you see that little number there changing. It will show you if when you lock the rear differential. Tire pressure gauge. So there's the tire pressure gauge right there. And towing status. So if you're towing, whatever the case may be, it shows you. Trailer trip. I guess if you want to keep your tabs on the trip of the trailer. And you could do trip 1, as you guys can see, trip 2, and you can do the weather. So, which is pretty cool. It actually shows you the actual weather. Super cool feature there. It knows where I am. And the trip, you can of course reset it. Press this guy here to reset trip 1. You can reset trip 2. Super cool feature, I gotta say, super unique. What I wish Ford did is allow you to have multiple widgets, not just one. So for example, have fuel economy and these gauges, or media, or 3, be able to do this and customize them at a time. I think you could do that with its sibling, the Lincoln Navigator, but not here. The Lincoln Navigator screen actually goes all the way, which is even bigger. All right, now that we got that out of the way. Oh, and of course, one thing that this vehicle has, which I am happy to report that Ford incorporated that, something that the Koreans have been doing, which is activating the blind spot monitoring camera, which is super useful tech, and more car companies should do this, especially vehicles with 360 camera. So it will show you who is in your blind spot when you activate your left or right turn signal, which is activated by turning on the camera on the right hand side, or the camera, on the right hand side, or the camera on the left. Super unique feature and super thoughtful. And then of course it'll do it for the right, as you guys can see. The vehicle does have automated cruise control, which Ford calls Blue Cruise. And I gotta say, I was very impressed. I was driving last night home, and it was very foggy, and the car did an excellent job maintaining completely hands-free. I was just looking forward, and as you guys can see, these little blinking eyes looking at you. You can't see it with the human eye, but the camera can detect them. That's making sure that you're paying attention. And it did warn me a few times and say, hey, pay attention to the road, because I had to look down for a second. And it did show me a warning in the camera and the screen there. And to activate cruise control, you just press this guy here, And you guys can see, so it shows you there, you could do you set the speed, you can do the distance by just hovering your finger here. You could do that, you could do the distance, you could do far, and you go close, you could do here resume. This also activates the lane departure, lane keeping system on and off, cruise control on and off, and that's pretty much it. For some oddball reason, it doesn't turn it off until you press and hold it, or I don't know. It's weird how it does that, which I don't know why it does that. But anyway, let me just exit. That's kind of how it looks like, the screen, and underneath the start-stop button, you do have a trailer brake controller. Let me turn on the lights, you guys can see that, which is right over here. Right there, trailer brake controller. This has the manual mode. You can put it in manual mode here, and then you can shift up and down the gears, volume up and down, power on and off of the radio. This turns on and off the automatic start-stop technology. This turns on the parking chime, so the sensor's on and off. Your hazards display. This activates the camera. So as you guys can see, the 360 camera, and resolution is pretty good, I gotta say. Very good. That's the front of the car. You could, of course, do the mirror cam. This is the hitch cam. I mean, it's so many different angles. Super cool that it has that. And let me go back to 360 here. And then when you click on this guy, and then you want to expand one particular area, you can do that. You can just press this, and it shows you pretty much, and it does a good job. This one, of course, shows you what the wheels are doing, and more or less, it is pretty cool to see that level of customization. Super cool and unique feature. And of course, you could just turn it back off. This turns on and off the traction control right here. This turns on the off-road trail control enable, which is technically one pedal driving for off-road. So what that does is, if you're going down a hill or whatever, you don't have to modulate the brakes. It will do it for you. So, and this is what the screen looks like when it is in its home. And you see that adjusted the the memory settings, which you could program right there. But anyway, this is what it looks like in its home settings. So this is vehicle settings. So it does have automatic brake hold. There's the driver memory. So you can, of course, save it in your profile. Trail turn assist, which is that's what it was doing earlier, and it's telling me to put it in 4 low. This controls the brightness of the screen, and let's go back here, and this controls the lighting. So this is actually how you turn on the lights, which I wish it would have been a physical control and not on the screen. So right now I have the headlights to automatic. There you could turn them on manually, and it actually will show you, which is super cool, a display of the car. And this turns on the fog lights. You guys can see the fog lights are turned on. And then if you want to turn on those off-road lights, you have to turn on the high beams. And as you guys see, the high beams are turned on. And then you press that guy, and it turns on those off-road lights. Super cool. It shows you the car with its lights on. And let's see if I turn them off, turn off headlights. And let's see, yes, turn it off. And yep, the lights are off. As you guys can see, they're fully off. Super cool, and it's cool. I like the fact that the car shown here, it's the exact same color as the vehicle, which is super cool to see that. But anyway, I like automatic headlights. I keep them on auto, no issues, no fuzz. This so you don't have to worry about turning on and off lights anymore. And moving down to the center, I like this nice little touch. It says Expedition. This material here, it's not wood, but it's kind of like rough terrain material kind of looking thing, but it's pretty cool. Everything you touch is soft padded. And moving on to the center console, you have a lid here to hide your Pro trailer control. You do have USB-A and USB-C and USB-A control here. And this is where the wireless charger if this car had one, it would be right here. So this vehicle does not have it, but you can get it from Ford. 2 ginormous cup holders. And before I show you a little trick this car has, you open this lid and it's massive. You guys can see, of course, this is a huge vehicle. You do have 2 more USB-C's port right here, and you do have a traditional cigarette style outlet right there. Giant cubby right here. Yeah, and of course you got this little divider here for coins or whatever, keys, whatever the case may be. And now time for the magic trick. So this guy slides. So you press this here, it's called the Ford Flex center console, and look at that. You could slide this and you have more space, and whoever's sitting back here can have access to the cup holders, the power, and this vehicle has a safe, which I find hilarious. This car has a safe, but yes, you can actually get this from Ford. You can actually get a safe. Otherwise, this space would just be blank, rubberized material. But yeah, you can, has a combination lock and everything. You can customize this, you open it up, and yeah, it's a full-blown safe. You can put whatever you want in here, and yeah, super interesting and unique feature to have. Personally, I would not get this safe. I would just leave it empty, because then it maximizes your space capability. And there's a look at how it looks like when you close it, but then when you press the button here, it just moves back and you have all the room in the world. And moving on to the roof, you have this ginormous, like I mentioned, panoramic sunroof. Let me turn off the light there. And it does open almost all the way, but very airy, very cool, and it gives your passengers access to open air, and it makes, of course, the cabin light up as well. Of course, you can tilt it like so. You can close it, and it does have a motorized shade. So it does have a motorized shade that if you do it once, it covers that portion, and if you do it again, it will completely go and cover the whole roof. And sorry about that, the camera was a little dim, but I just keep it open for filming purposes to get the best lighting. Open it again, you guys can see, and it almost goes all the way to the third row seats. So, and that's pretty much it up front. It's a little, the wheel is a little, it'll take you a little bit to get used to, especially because it's not round. So it is flat here, it is flat here. And I know why they did it. They did it because they want the wheel, they don't want the wheel blocking the screen up there. So you may get used to it if you live with this car. Obviously, if you own it and you buy it, over time, you'll get used to it, no problem. And all right, let's step into the back seats, then the third seats, and then we'll go for our final drive. And before I do that, let's take a quick peek of the glove box. You do have a decent sized glove box here, super useful. And door handles are right here. The pockets are huge, so you have huge pockets for everything. All right, let's step into the back seats, then the third seats, and then we go for a quick drive. Stay tuned for that. Okay, let's step into the back seats of the Ford Expedition Tremor, and the materials back here continue just like the front. You're not getting a penalty box right here. Of course, the windows are auto up and down, all 4 windows, super nice and useful feature, of course. And you do have this massive step to get into. And let's say you have a car seat and the seats are very comfortable, it's very nice. It continue just like the front. You have a kiddo, the seats will tilt this way, and then you can kind of slide it, and that's how you would gain access to the third row seats, which we'll go over in a second. So technically you should be able to leave a car seat in place, and then you can just push the seat back to accommodate. Of course, this vehicle does have grab handles because the height is very high. And back here, it is a very nice place to be. The seat is adjusted to how I drive. Let me take my tripod out of the way. Plenty of leg room and space here. You do have vents all over the roof, so you can of course adjust it to get air to you. And this is a very interesting feature. I don't think it's standard, it might be optional, but nonetheless it's very cool because it's a tablet holder. So you can completely put in any device here and adjust it like so. I was using it yesterday to adjust my tablet, my daughter's tablet, and it just stays. It stays perfectly there in place. And as you guys saw, it does have a little lock here, which I don't know how to lock this guy. Oh, maybe like so. Let's see. Yes. Oh, silly me. I did not know I had a lock. So you can lock it in place, as you guys can see, and it locks. And of course you could put phones right here. You could put a whole tablet. So it's super unique and super useful because the USB port, the USB-C port is right there, right behind each seat. Super useful. I don't know, I don't think this is a standard feature. This is, I think, optional, but nonetheless, and well, I gotta figure out how to unlock it now. But anyway, let's see if I can do this on camera. And nope. All right, I gotta figure out how to do this later. But anyway, super unique feature. It will of course close back and look like that guy once it's fully done. There's a look at the instrument cluster, the screen. And back here, you do have your own climate controls right here, of course. And this is another useful family thoughtful feature. That's actually a tablet holder. I have my cell phone case to display how that looks like. So you can put a giant tablet there for the kiddos if you don't, let's say if you don't have this, because this is standard. This is standard, the screen is standard. You have this anyway, so you can put your devices right there for your kids' devices to be able to accommodate them. And then if you keep moving down, there is a household style outlet right here. That's 120 volts, 400 watt max. So they can literally plug in their devices. This, of course, is you can control the airflow right here. And it does have heated seats. These two seats are heated, they're not ventilated. And it does have a nice ratchet style handrest. And let me flip the camera around. Actually, let me see if I can, well, if I had this working perfectly, I can just, but yeah, right now this thing is helping me film, and I can adjust the seat here, and I'm very comfortable. I'm 5'8", plenty of headroom, no issues to complain here. Yeah, that's pretty much it back here. This is of course a large, very large vehicle. If you, of course, have a large family, let's say if you want to tow, because this can tow up to 9,600 pounds, which is a lot. So, and of course you want to take off the beaten path. This is why you want this. And this also, which I'll actually go over, I want to go over that in a second before we drive. It has 7 different drive modes. We'll go over that in a little bit before we take off. And yeah, these seats are comfortable. Going back to, they're very comfortable. They're soft padded. You do have hooks everywhere, LED lighting everywhere. And that's pretty much it back here. Let's step in before we go back there. Let me turn on the lights. Yep, let me turn on the lights back there. Let's step into the third seats, and then we go for a quick drive and my final thoughts. Stay tuned for that. All right, let's step into the third row seats of the Ford Expedition Tremor. And like I said, you can go in 2 ways. You can go into the middle, or you can just press this guy here like so, and then gently push it over. And let me try to do this with one hand. Close it, and let me put the seat back. And yeah, I have plenty of leg room. I'm 5'8", like I said. I can sit back here, no problem. And you do have controls to the seat, so you could adjust them and be more comfortable. You do have air vents everywhere. Do have LED lighting back here. And all hooks. Cup holders on the sides right here. You got two here. You have USB-C ports right here, so everybody can be comfortable. And let me spin the camera around, and yeah, super comfortable here. This also folds. Let me see if I can do this with one hand. Yep, you can fold it, and you can have a little bit of a pass-through to the trunk area. And whoever wants to sit here, so technically you can sit 3 people back here. This is why, let me just see if I can lower. This is why it has the center seat belt mounted right here, which actually goes right over here. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. And no, I cannot. Oh, silly me, it's magnetic. Duh. Of course, there you go. Magnetic, and it stays out of the way. And that's pretty much it in terms of getting in here. Oh, you do have a little grab handle here to get into the third row seats from the outside. And all right, let's take this 2026 Ford Expedition Tremor for my first drive and final thoughts. Stay tuned for that. And here's a look what it looks like all the way from the third seat. Stay tuned for that. All right, let's drive the 2026 Ford Expedition Tremor. And for full disclosure, I am not a person who's used to driving giant cars like this. But this thing is absolutely takes a cake in terms of size. And I was telling my wife and family friends that I don't have any justification to ever getting something this large at all. I just do not, because I'm used to something small. This is definitely not my jam. I will always have either a mid-size SUV or a compact SUV than something this large. Don't have any real use case scenario. Of course, if you're an owner of a motorhome or a very large, you're towing equipment or something, and you need the horsepower, you need the power, then yeah, something like this will make logical sense. Also, before I forget, my tester is, the sticker is $86,000. So basically it's fully loaded for the Tremor version. In terms of options, there's really nothing much that you can pick besides dealer installed accessories and stuff like that, cargo management, obviously different roof racks and things of that nature. But besides that, there's really not much you can add to this. And of course, color. You can have different colors. There's a couple of matte colors. This color is called Marsh Gray. Even though I don't really see the gray, it's more like a brownish kind of mud brown, I guess. But I think this is a badass machine. I remember driving the Expedition the first time when I drove it was when the Timberline edition first came out. Make sure to subscribe and you'll be able to see that video on my channel. And that version, this was a giant vertical screen that it had here, so which was interesting. It was huge. It was also, of course, very capable. But I do like this little setup. My only nitpick is I wish two things. One, the steering wheel adjustment should have been a button on the column. That's my only nitpick that I have to give it. And the headlight controls should have been a stock or a knob, like traditional Fords, you know, have a knob for, you know, their headlights. But besides that, you know, it's not bad. It's not a bad vehicle. It does have the typical body on frame. Let me turn off those lights. body on frame. I'm closing the shade here. It has the typical body on frame jarring movement. So if you're not used to a vehicle that is a body on frame like this, on uneven road surfaces, it tends to have a little bit of a shudder, you know, so to speak. Hard to describe, but anyway, it is very quiet. It is very smooth for something this large. Even though it's not a V8, the exhaust note on the V6, the twin turbo V6, it is very nice. It does have a nice little growl to it and burble when it's idling. And let me go in here. Again, I have the car in normal mode. So let me shift it to sport mode, which probably nobody will drive this in sport mode, but here it goes anyway. And if I put my foot down, it actually takes off. And you guys you're probably hearing the exhaust note. Not bad. Not bad. I don't know what that was, the 60, but let me put it back to normal mode. And yeah, it's a giant behemoth. It is a cool truck. People give me thumbs up. The cruise control also works very well. So if I turn it on here and I set the lane keeping and set the distance to short, you can sit here and let your Blue Cruise is not activated yet, because it will let you know on that screen Blue Cruise is available on this road. Which is super useful, because this way you know. Yeah, right now it's telling me to keep the hands on the wheel. You do have to kind of jug it a little bit, but nonetheless, it does a good job mitigating the lanes, keeping you steady. As you guys can see, it's turning and following the lanes very nicely. And it's not too bad. If you're in the market for, you know, a large, full-size SUV, like this Expedition, like the Tahoe, the Suburban, Toyota Sequoia, and yeah, definitely add the Expedition to your list. And of course, this one has a little bit of an off-road flair, which competes directly with the Sequoia TRD Pro and the Suburban, forgot what the off-road version, I think this is a C71 package for the off-road. But anyway, yeah, definitely add this to your list of vehicles. And again, in terms of power, it's very, very adequate. Fuel economy, the most I've got to it, and this was last night driving home with 3 people in the car, was 19.5 on the highway. I guess you can say it's respectable fuel economy for something this large, but don't expect this thing to be a Prius, obviously. The sticker says 23 miles per gallon. I highly doubt this thing will ever do 23 miles per gallon because of its 33-inch tires. And of course, physics. This is a very large and heavy vehicle. It's not designed or its intentions to be something fuel efficient. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for sharing, for liking my videos. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and press like. That tells YouTube that you guys like my video, and it really helps me out a lot. And on that fine note, I will see you all on the next one. Take care and stay safe.